this, we can make it look like a party, right?
Hello, hello, hello. DJ J Rock, Power Jam DJs, representing Digital DJ Zone TV. We got some special guests with me today. We have
DJ B Love, Power Jams DJs.
coming all the way from New York. We have
DJ Majestic, Definite Sounds and Power Jam, WPJR.
all right. Thank everybody for joining us tonight. Don't forget the chat box is wide open. Tonight, this is our debut meeting. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about what the Digital DJ Zone is. It's going to be a weekly TV show where we talk about issues that are important to sound men and ladies, professionals, lighting professionals, even artists. You know, if you're in the event production business, this is the show you want to check out every week. Broadcasting live on YouTube every Monday at 8 p.m. on WPJR and YouTube. I'm your host, DJ J Rock. We got my beautiful co-host, DJ B Love. Tonight's special guest is DJ Majestic.
All right.
So how you good people doing today?
I'm doing well.
I'm good.
All right, so tonight's first topic, we're going to discuss, it's kind of an argument that you hear about in probably 85% of the DJ-related groups, turntables versus controllers. But my question that I have for you two professionals, as well as everybody's listening who hopefully will chime in the comment box, is that argument even relevant in 2016? Because my standpoint is, you know, my background, I came from Gemini turntables and Sherwood turntables and graduated to Techniques. And so now I'm on my third pair of Technique 1200s. But with the whole coming out of retirement digital revolution, you know, we kind of standardize on Techniques for the house and a controller for the road. Our weapon of choice is the Newmark NS7 III, Newmark NV, and the Denon MCX 8000. That's the controllers in our arsenal. So from my standpoint, just looking back over the last 3 years, I've never had a client say, "Don't come in here with a controller," or "Don't come in here with no turntables," or "You're not a real DJ. You don't have a turntable." What have been you guys' experiences? Majestic?
Okay. Well, honestly, I'm gonna say I'm still kind of a purist, leaning toward turntables. Like you, I've never spun on Sherwoods, but before the 12s, I had Technique D1s. That was high school and college. And after I came back from college, that's when, you know, I actually had a real job. So I spent real money and I stepped up to the 1210s. You know, so it was one of those situations where now, don't get me wrong, the VCI 400 from the Vestex family, that's a 4-channel controller. I love that as well, for different reasons. Because once everything went digital, it became, I'm going to say, a cost-effective issue where I could, Rain and Pioneer, their DJ mixers are now like in the $2,000 range, which to me makes absolutely that's the bigger argument than a turntable, because I can't see myself spending $2,000 on a mixer when, you know, like even like when the Rain mixers first came out, because again, just going back, I started on Spearsonic mixers. And then again, when real money came into play, we stepped it up to the GLI 9000. And then ultimately to the Rain, the still 19-inch mixer, which was the Mojo MM8, the 8Z. But now, again, when you introduce digital, had the Serato, was rocking, but then Serato introduced the video, which means that now you had to have a digital mixer. So another guy in the group, Andre, you know, we had discussed this because I was going to modify my mixer that I had. I wasn't going to just go spend $2,000. I was going to modify it. And then Dre was like, yo, get the Behringer DDM 4000, which was, I think, $299 or $249, because it's a digital mixer and you could do the video. So I did that. I got the MIDI cord and everything. It worked great, with the exception, I got the video, but only on the up and down sliders for the channel, but not on the crossfader. So like if you're doing quick mixes, you need a crossfader.
Exactly.
So that's where the Vestex, the all-in-one controller, because it's a digital piece of equipment. So that VCI, because I don't like two-channel mixes, because I've never been like a battle DJ. Not to say that I can't cut and scratch, but after 15, 20 minutes of that, because I'm a party DJ. You know, your crowd is, I mean, because I play the 35 and over, always have, even when I was younger. They're not going to want all that cutting and scratching like you in a DMC battle. So, like, but the Vestex mixers, because the first one that I played on was the 300, which was a two-channel mixer. But I refused to buy it because it was a two-channel mixer. So when they came out with the 400, I'm like, now you can take my money. You know what I'm saying? So not that I'm leaving the 1200 family, never going to get away from that. But what it also did, the controller, not only did it enable me to do the video the way that I wanted to do it, but I found two situations. When I do boat rides, it's a lot easier because back in the day, I don't know if you remember the turntable cases that had the big rubber band, so the turntables were floating, so like the water jarring and all that wouldn't disturb the needle. So it worked out great on boat rides. And then for parades, because if you're on a parade in a float, now, again, you don't have to worry about your needle skipping. So, I mean, there's good and there's bad. You know what I'm saying? For both arguments from each side. I don't think that there's really an argument. You know what I'm saying? Because if I'm going to say I was a late adapter, but once I got to the point where the music wasn't available on vinyl anymore, it was like, I'm not going to give up what I love doing. So, you know, now I don't, because y'all are, you know, a little south than me. I don't know if Funk Master Flex is big down there. Big time DJ up here in New York.
Yeah, we're definitely familiar. Who's okay with that? What is it? The 60 minutes of funk. What kind of made him a household name?
Okay. So I remember I was listening to him one night on the radio, and I actually already had bought the Serato, and there was something that he said that kind of resonated. You know, he said, you could come in with your 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte hard drive. He said, you could have 400,000 songs. He goes, but I could walk in with 300 records to play in one night. He goes, unless you know how to string those records together, he goes, I will outplay you any night of the week. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's not so much about the gear, it's about the music. Because, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's me. So Be Love.
I skinned that cat a little differently. And so I heard the argument. I definitely feel that my turntable skills need to improve just so I can feel like I'm being true to the craft, because I don't come from the era of having to carry crates. Well, not carry crates and spin. I carry crates and then danced on my piece of linoleum. But I carry crates and spin. So for me getting started, it was a matter of being able to think about how often I wanted to work and what the physical requirements were for me to be able to conduct that work. And so the physical requirements of carrying records is a much higher cost on the body and the wear and tear of it than it is using the digital controller. There's also the issue of I felt that no matter what type of tool you use, if you are rocking a crowd, then it kind of doesn't matter. And so, and so usually when people walk up to the set, that's what they're discussing. Now, of course, amongst cohorts, it depends on your skill set, how, crafty you are with being able to make modifications, like you mentioned, Majestic. Some people may not be, technically literate enough to be able to assess that kind of situation. So I chose controller for my personal business goals and longevity. I definitely can see how a person that has some limitations with skill may, you know, feel that that argument is relevant, but it hasn't, I don't see that it has impacted my business in any way. So I would suggest people spend less time on arguing over the tool that they choose and actually be really great at rocking the house with whatever tool they use, because I feel like that is what will extend the longevity, the craft, and the business much more than whether we're using a digital tool or not.
And to add on to that, I would have to say, tools are important, but get what you can afford, what you will have a good return on your investment. Because I personally know DJs who carry nothing but a laptop, a small mixer board, and powered speakers. And they rock the house. Of course, they don't cut and scratch and blend and all that. But if you look at the dance floor, you'll be like, wow. See, it's really not about the tools. It's about the song selection. You get the tools that help you deliver the best performance. In the chat box, DJ Official said 4 channels are definitely better than 2. And I would have to agree with that. I like to be able to have, bring in a CD player or extra deck or do 4-deck mixing or whatever. And so in 2016, I think it's not a matter of whether you use a turntable versus controller versus a standalone laptop. It's the bigger question is, are you charging the appropriate rate for that particular gig? And that leads us into our next topic, which
Clean
is
and smooth like that.
which is coming from the technical field and music and a studio background. I believe in pricing things so that a client can afford, but also you have to be able to make a livable wage. And so a trend that I'm seeing with the lighting game, there's a lot of sound professionals and DJs that's getting into the lighting game, and they're going out and buying in slim par 56s or 64s or whatever, and they're throwing them up against the walls, and they're not charging for them. So for the same, we'll say $200 that they're charging a DJ a 4-hour event, they're adding up lighting. They're adding, what's the favorite light? Mini Quintas, Swarm FXs and stuff like that. And so I just think that, as professionals, we need to stop, come up with a business plan, look at our inventory and figure out, I'm going to get into this lighting game. what does a lighting professional charge for said service? Or if I'm a DJ at a wedding, I'm not going to do a 4-hour wedding and spend, like us personally, 32 hours in preparations and meetings and everything and charge $150 for a wedding. And so, you got to look at your basic cost factors. So from my standpoint, I look at what does this job require? What's the time commitment? How much gear do I need to bring out? Setup time, travel, and all of those play a factor in what we ultimately end up charging the client. And so, of course, the client don't care if you got this, you got wireless, you got short mics versus a corded mic. They want you to be on time. They want you to rock the house. They want you to sound good. And most of all, they want to feel like they receive great customer service from end to end. So with the whole pricing structure topic, DJ Beloved, tell us what are your thoughts?
If I were conversing with my cohorts about this conversation, I would suggest similar things to what you said. I would suggest that people respect the industry and really understand what they're offering so that they can be clear with the customer about what they can actually receive. And I look at it from the insurance perspective as well, and ownership and the cost of ownership. And so if as a service provider, I am storing lighting, whether it's in my home or a separate location, if I have to pay a fee to insure those items for damage or theft, then those items are actually costing me to run the business. So I would like to make sure that every time that I take them from their location where they're being stored when they're not in use to a place where they are going to be in use, that they are going to be accounted for in the process of, selling the service, as well as to make sure that I'm not causing undue stress to my cohorts by offering a service for a really small price and then leaving my peers to have the discussion about why it could be inappropriate for them to offer a minimally priced service when they have to pay, to add those things to their inventory, to maintain them in the inventory, and to be able to carry them back and forth from client to client, because typically we don't use those things just once. So maybe if you were going to do a birthday party for a kid, you wanted to throw in some glow sticks or some other type of consumable thing, it may not be something that you feel that you have to charge for in conjunction with everything else you're doing. But something that is part of your inventory you use repeatedly, again, I think if you're going to incur the cost to own it and maintain it, that cost should be accounted for when you provide a service.
DJ Majestic?
Again, I kind of have a different take on it because everybody is not going to always be at the same level. So I'm going to say the younger guys, when they're just coming into the game, they're not even hungry for money. They just want the exposure. So, I was taught a long time ago, not only in this game, but just in general, it's, when, because everybody always talk about marketing and advertising and, things like that. But the person, they asked me a really simple question. They was like, what is the most expensive car on the market? It's going to be a Rolls Royce. How many commercials do you see for a Rolls Royce? Answer 0, because the brand speaks for itself. So when I was getting into the game, they was like, listen, you're only going to be as good as your last outing. Because if you did good, people are going to talk good about you. And if you did on the opposite, you did bad, you ain't gonna have to worry about your next booking because you're not gonna get it. So, I mean, now when I'll say in college, because even when I was in high school, I was DJing professionally. And keep in mind, the only difference between professional and amateur is you're getting paid for it. Okay, so when I was in high school, I was DJing like the red light basement parties and at the roller skating rink, one of the roller skating rinks here. So when I went to college, that's where I got my first professional radio gig, but I was already running all the parties on campus because the DJs that were down there, they didn't have the most modern and up-to-date equipment. Because, I mean, going back some years, keep in mind, New York was the mecca for everything. So when I went to college, which was down south, like now, like Rain just came out like with a rotary knob mixer. But down back in 1980, 81, that was not considered DJ gear because you had to have a crossfader in order to make things happen. So when I went down with my mixer, I'm the only cat in Alabama that had a mixer with a crossfade. So that just like catapulted me to the top of the game. And then not only that, because this was pre-internet days, so they didn't have the internet. So my records was coming straight out of New York by UPS every week. So I had music that not only the people didn't have, but most radio stations, they get advanced copies because they get the promo copies. I was getting music that the radio station down there wasn't getting either. So that's how I actually got the job for the first radio station, because the guy came to me, I'm rocking at a party, and he's tapping me on my shoulder, and I'm like, yo, you gotta lay back. You know what I'm saying? So he offered me a job. And so, I mean, and people always told me that I was cocky, but I don't think that it was cocky because I knew what I was worth. And like, I'll take it past college. When I came back home to New York, because I stayed with it, I was, for a 4-hour party, didn't matter what it was, I wasn't charging any less than $600. I mean, that was the bottom line. And, but now, like you're saying, because with controllers being so affordable, people go out and get a controller for $250. You know what I'm saying? And a pair of powered speakers
and
for like
MP3s and ripping YouTube. And
exactly. So now they're getting the majority of their music from free, and they paid less than $1,000 for a controller and pair of powered speakers. So that wasn't the way that it was back then. But what happened, I'm like, see, I'm that Rolls Royce. I'm not going to lower my price because this guy came along. Because what's going to happen, you're going to hire him. He may be cheaper, but he doesn't have the skill set and the knowledge. So that's what you're actually paying for. And you're not paying for equipment.
And I say this all the time, DJ B-Love and I, for those of you who may be watching, may not know, DJ B-Love and I, we're husband and wife DJ team, Power Jam DJs.
10 years and stroking.
And so a conversation that we have all the time is, other professionals in our area can go and buy everything that we have, from the controller to trussing to lights and to vlogs and gig logs and all that stuff. But they still would be missing one critical component, and that's the energy that we bring to every event. People don't hire us because, you have a 1200s and you got 59 speakers. They're attracted to, I would say, the energy that we bring. And so, that's how we get gigs. It doesn't matter about the gear.
I would have to agree with that. To go back to what Majestic was saying just a few minutes ago about the expertise and things that come along with it. One of my standard phrases is, The lion doesn't worry about what the lamb does. There's no reason for the lion to. The lamb can't even function on a lion's level. Who's scared when a lamb come around?
Nobody.
Who fears for their security or anything like that? And I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. I just mean if you look at the facts of how a lion lives its life and the facts of how a lamb lives its life, they don't function in the same realm. They have different sections even on the food chain.
Well, I'm happy to say I'm a proud lion. Listen to me roar.
Exactly. And so I think for those professionals that are willing to be the lion, to wear the mane, that they're willing to go out into the bush and, you know, kill a big old wildebeest or an elephant or something to that extent, then they deserve that prize. And lambs, I believe they're on that vegetarian tip. And so if you're, you know, if that's your goal, if you want to know where the fennel and the dill and those other things are in the bush, then you're going to work with the lamb. But if you are wanting larger game and a more adventurous experience, you'll go for a lion. And so I approach it more like we're a DJ and show. Talk to you a little bit. I'm mess around, play around with and so forth. So I think that has a lot of what you were saying has a lot to do with it too. When your service can speak for itself, then you really don't have to worry about people that aren't pricing in your range.
Absolutely.
All right, for those of you tuning in, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Be sure to join our Facebook group, digitaldjzonetv.com. And that Facebook group is just all about networking and building. None of the crazy drama that happens in Facebook groups. We're going to have fun. We're going to build. In closing, I want to thank my guests, DJ Beloved, DJ Majestic, for joining me tonight. And don't forget to come back next Monday, same bat time,
Same bat channel.
All right.
on the Power Jams DJs YouTube channel.
Oh, Majestic, why don't you let us know when our guests know when your shows are again on the network?
Okay. Yeah, I could do that. Let's.
It's thundering and lightning here, so we may have lost our guests. But you can catch DJ Majestic on the powerjamsradio.com. Go to the website. It's a full show schedule there. And thank everybody, and good night.
Good night.